Okay, I'm glad to be here. I hope everybody can see me and hear me. So I'm Tom Haak, and I'm director of the HR Trend Institute. I'm a trend watcher in the domain of people and organization. My background is in international HR. I have worked for companies as Philips Electronics, KPMG, Aon Insurance, brokers, and the last company I worked for on the payroll was Arcadis, engineering architectural company. If you want more of me afterwards, which I don't know, but it could be link with me on LinkedIn. If you don't spam me, I will accept you. Go to the website of hrtrendinstitute.com. There's a lot of information there. Or go to my YouTube channel, and there you will find nice videos on all kinds of subjects. I'm not specialized in one of the areas of HR, so generally I look at the trends and look at the implications for the different areas in HR. What I want to do today is offer you a checklist. So I'm going to ask you 10 questions, and you can note them down on your pad, and then you can rate yourself in terms of, hey, to what extent are we doing this, and how do we rate ourselves? And the first rating, of course, is a 1. We are very poor, and 5 is we are world class. Come to us, and please invite us next year on this conference to talk about our fantastic practices. So 10 questions, 5-point scale. So hopefully after this presentation you have a nice assessment of your own situation, whether you are in comp and ben reward or whether you have a more general HR position. Okay, so question number 1. Are you really contributing to the transformation of your organization and the transformation of HR in your organization? And you'll probably say, oh, that's a big question. And what we have seen in 2020 going into 2021 is a lot of adaptation. We went into a crisis situation and many organizations were able to adapt. Now the question and the challenge is, how can we really transform? And many HR, my background is in HR, so I will refer to HR a lot. Many HR teams are complimented for the way they manage the adaptation. But the question is, can you now move on to real transformation? I will mention 1 or 2 examples. And this meeting, in a way, is an example of adaptation. Normally, you would all sit in the Steigenberger Hotel in Amsterdam. That was not possible today. So what did we do? What did Teneo do? We invited you for a real-time online conference, which is adaptation. That's the same thing, but now online. But still, here are the speakers, most of them with their PowerPoints. There's a chairman, excellent chairman, of course. And there is Q&A. There's even the possibility to network a little bit. But it probably is not as nice as the real thing. And who of you are going to sit here diligently at 9:30 and sit through the conference the whole day? The question is also to the conference organizers, how can you really transform this? And of course, there are ways to do that, but not so easy. We saw that also in many of the HR practices, but for example, meetings, for example, reviews. What happened is move it from live to online, but most of those things are still kind of real time, the way we were used to do that. The management teams, we have seen all the management teams, they could not meet on Monday morning from 9:11 line to 11 as they were used to, but now they meet online, and that leads to a lot of Zoom fatigue. That's one of the common issues. So question 1, I posted to you already. How do you rate yourself? Are you contributing to the real transformation of your organization and the, you could say, digital transformation of HR? Question 2, I hope you can see it. Are you focusing on the most burning issues? Or are you, you could say, dug into the HR trenches and the comp and bend trenches and optimizing things that are maybe not connected to the most burning issues? What are those burning issues? You know better than I do. I'll just mention a couple that I see in many organizations these days, but I'm sure you have your own list. Generally, if I review HR plans, the question, is that plan, is there a good story, is there a good connection to the most burning issues? That generally rates low. So my expectations are not super high. What are those issues? For many organizations today, it's still about survival. How do we survive in the current crisis, and how do we prepare for the next crisis that is undoubtedly coming? It's not the same for every company. Some companies are growing fast, blossoming in the current situations, but many other organizations are suffering and thinking, how do we survive? Especially if I look around me in the Netherlands, of course, smaller companies that don't have a lot of money in the bank. Connected to that is the second issue, what I see a lot, is innovation. How do we renew ourselves? The market has changed, the circumstances have changed. How do we innovate? How do we renew? And how do we stay relevant in the current market? And the question to you is, what are you contributing to innovation in your organization? The third one I see a lot is resilience. How do we make our organization and the people in our organization more resilient? How do we make sure that when new adverse situations arise, that we are better prepared than in the past? And I've spoken about that at other conferences. I won't do that today, but the concept I like a lot is the concept of anti-fragility. And anti-fragility is a concept from Nicolas Taleb, and Taleb is saying anti-fragile people, anti-fragile organizations are able to bounce back at a higher level. They are benefiting from crisis situations. So that's the type of organization you want to be. That's the type of people you would like in your organization. So how can you become more resilient, anti-fragile? And I'm sure it is also on the agenda today. Many organizations are looking at how can we make sure our people, but not only our people, also our clients and other people are okay, are healthy, are safe, and not have a mental mindset that really is good. So well-being high on the list of many organizations. And I'm sure you can add your own issues. So question number 2 was, to what extent are we contributing to solving, dealing with our burning issues? Question number 3. Question number 3 is your scope wide enough? Is your scope wide enough? And I'll explain it. And you see many organizations and many HR teams and organizations that are still quite inwardly focused. They are looking at the organization, the people on the payroll of the organization, and they're not so concerned about other groups. What other groups could you take into account? Of course, there's the flexible workforce, and most of you have some connection to the flexible workforce. I'm not too worried about that. It's also suppliers. What are you doing for the suppliers of your organization? I see quite some efforts in organizations around the well-being issues. They send boxes of chocolate or other goodies to the homes of the employees. Hey, we still care about you. Here are the chocolates. But then I'm a little bit cynical sometimes. Are you then also looking at the adverse work conditions of your suppliers in other parts of the world? So it's employees, it's suppliers, it is the flexible workforce. It's also, of course, clients. What are you doing for the end clients of your organization? Not the internal clients alone, but also are you adding value for the end clients? And then I could add other groups. Of course, there are candidates, etc. But in a sense, it's also about, and that's becoming more and more important, what are we doing as an organization for society? What are we doing as an organization to make the world a better place? And that's also a question to you. What are you doing to make the world a better place? And are you taking that into consideration? So question number 3, is your scope wide enough? 0, maybe too narrow. 5, well, our scope is so wide that we don't even know how wide it is. And question number 4 is, what are the benefits for the people? And you probably say, that is always very clear. The people get paid and the people get all kinds of arrangements. But most organizations still take very much a top-down approach. The first question is, we want something as an organization, and how do we get our people to do it? The first question often is not, how can we make sure that we really are close to the people in our organization? What do they want? Are we really listening carefully to our people? And do we put their interests and benefits maybe higher on the priority list? Of course, this subject is related to the whole employee experience subject. A lot to say about that, but my big plea here is, don't take too much a top-down approach. Listen carefully how you can help people. And also there, it's a scoping element. Because I still hear a lot of statements like, how can we retain the people in our organization? How can we facilitate people to have a career in our organization? Maybe that's not what people are looking for. Maybe some people are looking for that, but other people are looking for other opportunities, maybe outside your organization. And are you also facilitating that in certain ways? Question number 5. An old question I probably have posted to you before. This is a good question to be on the list. Are you fast enough? And I don't want to put any judgment on you, but if I look generally at HR, if I look at all the different parts of HR, still most of it is too slow. And there's a lot of technology that can help us, but I still see in many organizations the year as a building block. So look at your activities, look at the things that you are doing, look at your adaptation rate, and the question is, are you fast enough? Question number 6. Question number 6 is, are you powering personalization? And personalization is one of the long-term important trends in the people and organization domain. And there the key question is, it's related to the people element. Are you willing and able to take the individual wishes, needs, competencies of people into account? And are you willing to do something with that? And it does not only have to do, in every aspect of HR, you can do something with personalization. And we have seen a lot in the last year that organizations are struggling with personalization. For example, the whole issue of working from home. I saw many organizations that put general rules on that. If you can work from home, you have to work from home. And now it's the reverse. Organizations are saying, well, good news. we can go back into the office. The good news is not all the time, but you have to come back to the office 3 days per week. Yeah. Why those general measures? So it's better to personalize. Look at the content of the work. Look at the home situation of people. Look at the personality of people. Look at the type of task at hand, and then offer tailored solutions that fit with the profile of that employee or that team. So not too much generalization. A side remark related to scope, but also to personalization. Sometimes, if I'm in these conferences, it looks like the whole world is knowledge worker in offices. That's not the situation. We have many workers, and for example, in the Dutch labor force, around half of the labor force are people working in transportation, people working in retail, people working in hospitals, people working in agriculture, and all those people have jobs where they cannot work from home. So let's try to avoid the picture as if the whole world is knowledge workers. Side remark. Question number 6 was, do you power personalization? And number 7. Number 7 is, I hope, number 7 is, are you a bystander or an activist? That is currently, and also in the law, a very important question for you as HR, complement, reward professionals. The expectations of society and the expectations of people around us are more and more that organizations take a point of view and that organizations are helping to make the world a better place. I already mentioned it. I've seen numerous cases, not only in the Netherlands but also elsewhere, where there was abuse of staff, where there are situations we don't want. For example, big or small pay differences between men and women, or between other groups. And what you then see is you can pose yourself the question, I pose myself the question, where was HR in those situations? And often, at least what I can see, HR is non-existent or not visible. They maybe report about it, but often then HR becomes the accomplice of management to say, how can we cover it up? Or how can we make a nice story around it? Instead of really addressing those issues. And today, not a lot of talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, but this is typically an area where we cannot be bystanders, but where we should be activists and say, we are helping to change the situation, not only in our company, but also wider. And the question connected to that, I phrased it 7A. 7A is, are you a guardian of the company values? Are you a guardian of the values? And if you are, you cannot be a bystander, but you should be an activist. I'm reaching question number 8 of the 10. I hope you're rating yourself. It's all anonymous, so you don't have to share the results afterwards. Number 8 is, are you there for all the parts of HR? Are you there for all the parts of HR? And I have made a plea that HR is going to be split. And HR will be split, and it's already in full progress, split in operations, HR operations. That's the big chunk of HR. And most HR will be in HR operations, the most important part of HR. Then it's HR strategy, HR advice, HR architects, however you want to call it, a small group of people where many people would like to be, but it's a small group of people. The third block of HR will be, I call it for the moment, people success. The people that are focused on employees and other people and that help them to do their job better. The question to you is, are you there for all parts? And what I see often, there's an inclination always to say, but we are strategic and we are working on strategic projects, etc., etc. Sometimes, of course, also in your domain, more operations. And then back to question I don't know which question it was, but are you also there to do things for the people? So are you doing things for all parts of HR? Question number 9, and I'm reaching number 10, and 9 is, are you connected to science? And we hear a lot about people analytics and the power of technology. Of course, that's also important, but it's also important to be connected to science. And I still see a big gap between the learnings of science, social sciences and other scientific areas, and the reality in organizations. So are you connected to science, and are you applying what you learn in science in your organization? And there are classical examples. Luckily, there's no discussion today. But for example, where is the scientific evidence that bonus systems are a good tool to drive people's behavior? Where is the scientific evidence that the face-to-face unstructured interview is a good selection instrument, etc., etc.? Where is the scientific evidence that being a team worker is important for all the people in the organization? Connect to science and don't be too amateuristic. And that you see a lot in the people analytics area, that people think, okay, we buy some software, we appoint a people analytics person, that then suddenly you can master the world. Well, often there's more to that. And number 10 is a short question, but I always put it on the list as well. Do you keep it simple? And it moves the story back to question number 1 and 2. Are you able to explain what you're doing and why you are doing it? Are you helping to transform the organization? And how is what you are doing helping to deal with the urgent issues of the organization? So are you keeping it simple? So 10 questions. I hope you still remember them. If not, buy this video, and you buy all the videos of the conference at the same time. If you want more, then link with me on LinkedIn. Go to hrtrendinstitute.com or have a look at the videos on my YouTube channel. And I give the floor back to Peter, and I want to thank all the audience, of course, for their attention.